Hello and welcome back to Those Astrology Girls. I'm Nicole.
And I'm Keelie.
And today we've got a jam-packed episode talking all about the upcoming Aries Solar Eclipse on March 29th, 2025. Now, as Keelie and I record this, we are in the windows in between eclipses. We just experienced a Virgo lunar eclipse a few weeks ago, and this is a really potent time. And also between that time, we're welcoming in the new astrological new year. Spring is here and ready in the Northern Hemisphere, or you're experiencing autumn in the Southern Hemisphere. And we're also experiencing Mercury and Venus retrograde at the same time. So with all these energies, we've got a lot to talk about, but we want to talk about eclipse energy in general, where you can plug this into your charts and see how it may or may not be impacting you as directly, and then just really like how to work with this energy and stay cool, calm, and collected as we move into a really, really exciting new time.
Yeah, as Nicole said, we are in it, you guys. We are in the midst of two eclipses right now. We just did an episode all about the Virgo lunar eclipse, which was the very first eclipse of 2025 and the first eclipse in this eclipse season that we are in. And now we are really going to dive in and talk all about this Aries solar eclipse that is again happening on March 29th at 6:58 a.m. Eastern Time, 5:58 a.m. Central Time, and 3:58 a.m. Pacific Time. That is going to be the peak of this eclipse, exactly when it is happening, and it's happening at 9 degrees Aries too. So today we're really going to go deeper into this eclipse energy. And every eclipse, as we've talked about, has its own unique flavor to it, has its own unique series of lessons for us to really tap into and connect with and understand ourselves better, and also understand where we are headed as souls. We are so much more than this human and this body. Like, we have such a soul journey that we are walking, and eclipses really are this way to help us see where we are being redirected, where maybe it's time for us to close some doors, where new doors are ready to be opened. And in a lunar eclipse, we talk about that those are, endings and completions of some sort, which is what we just kind of went through with the Virgo lunar eclipse. We're still in it right now, right? When we're between two eclipses, it's like, okay, doors are closing. And then before this solar eclipse, which is all about new beginnings, it's like some new doors opening. And so really what we want to ground us into today is have this real conversation, share some stories and reflections around, what Nicole and I are experiencing with this eclipse, just to kind of help give you even like a deeper understanding so that you can reflect maybe how this is also showing up in your own life. And right now, like, what are some of those doors that are closing so that we can create space for whatever new beginning, new pathway is asking to be paved? We're all tapped into it right now. And so we really just want to go deeper into that with you guys today and just really explore, okay, what are we experiencing and what does this mean for us right now?
Yeah, it's really interesting because while this is a new beginnings eclipse, we're also coming out of a time where the Aries-Libra eclipse axis, when the nodes were in Aries and Libra, we've already closed a bunch of doors related to these signs. And now we're moving into the Virgo-Pisces eclipse axis, which we already had that lunar eclipse in March earlier this month in Virgo. And so this is a time where we're finishing something up while also beginning anew, which I think is a really beautiful energy. And the eclipses don't always happen between equinoxes, like doesn't happen around this time all the time. So it's even more exciting that like we have this fresh start, the astrological new year. We also have Neptune moving into Aries the day after the eclipse, which is like a 165-year cycle, starting anew. And so if you feel fresh energy like bubbling up, but you're also like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Yes, like this is exactly it. That's what these eclipses, this is what this specific eclipse is asking for. And, we're also closing that big chapter of what we've been revisiting and understanding and navigating through since April and June of 2023. So it's been a long journey, almost 2 whole years.
Yeah. Yeah, with this Aries, we've been in this Aries-Libra eclipse axis, like Nicole said, since April of 2023. That was like our very first Aries eclipse specifically, and really started this journey of what are we here to learn as souls through this energy of Aries? When we're looking at eclipses, we're looking at the nodes, and we're looking at the north node and the south node. And these nodes are directly opposing one another, in the astrological wheel, which is why we're always looking at these two signs. And they tell a story of like, what energy are we moving away from and what energy are we moving towards? It's moving away from the sense of like, where are there maybe characteristics of this energy or themes of this energy that are maybe lower vibrational, and it's like, what lower vibrational energies are we being asked to let go of, and what are we really being asked to rise into as it relates to like this other sign? Nicole, would you kind of agree that like that's really kind of how we're exploring these energies? Because that being said, it's like what we've been moving away from is we've been moving away from this energy of Libra. We've been moving towards this energy of Aries, which is all about the self, our individuality, our creative fire, and our expression, and like birthing this new identity. And so, yes, like over the past couple of years, we've been on this eclipse axis that is like all about who are we here to step into? Where maybe have we been showing some codependent tendencies, right? Like that can kind of be a lower vibrational frequency sometimes with like the Libra energy is where are we giving our power away to the other? Because Aries is all about like the self and really stepping into our own personal power, speaking our own truth, and really paving our own pathway towards living our own personal purpose in this world. So that's the chapter we're closing out with whatever new beginning is to come under this Aries solar eclipse.
Yeah, I love that, because as you were saying it, like, that's what we're doing. And I just like was seeing like codependency and bright lights, like codependency is ending. People pleasing is ending. We need to focus on being, self-responsible, self-authoring, writers of our own life, writers of our own story, warriors of our own story in that way. And it doesn't always mean a fight, but just like really standing for yourself and being there. And that doesn't mean you're giving up relationships or anything like that. It just means, hey, where have I been deferring to others? Where have I been putting myself last for the sake of others? And whether that's, one-to-one relationships or, anything, it really is a powerful chapter that we're ending, but starting anew in. And I'm like really excited for that. And looking back to those times, I'm like, wow, the things that transpired for me in 2023 set a huge foundation for me to truly ask myself, okay, you've had major changes. Who do you actually want to become? Like, who are you stepping into? What is that new chapter going to look like? And it feels funny because like that chapter kind of ended in September for me with my corporate career, but I am still doing some tangential work related to my corporate career right now that isn't ending for a little bit longer, but it's like, it's so interesting the way I relate to it in my day-to-day. And that's like really impactful for me. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, that eclipse axis. Now, to be fair, I came off of the Taurus and Scorpio eclipses rocked, because that is like my 1st and 7th house. And I was just busy. Those eclipses were hitting every single one of my planets. It was a really busy time for me. So when I got to Aries and Libra, I was like, whatever, I'll take whatever lessons come, but like, don't make me think this hard. So now that I'm like retrospectively looking at it, I'm like, wow, what an impactful time. How about you? What's going on? How are you feeling?
Yeah, well, even thinking too, like, because with this Virgo lunar eclipse and entering into moving from the Aries Libra to the Pisces Virgo axis, now Pisces Virgo axis is in my 4th and 7th house, and I already feel the intensity of what these next couple years are going to bring. Like I am already, so much is coming to light, you guys, and that's something that we can get into, but it's just really fascinating all of the ways that we're experiencing this energy and even feeling into, right now we're playing with 2 different axes. Is that how you say it? Axes?
Yeah, it's a math term.
Moving, we've got the start of like the Pisces Virgo, so we just had a Virgo, but then we also have like the end of the Aries Libra with this like Aries solar eclipse. So we're playing between 2 axes right now. And so it's really interesting because I'm really feeling, again, it's like during this time right now, as you guys are listening to this, really reflecting on with these Virgo themes, which we talked about in our Virgo episode, going back and listening to that now that we're in it, listening to it again, listening to some of these big themes, because every single day is another opportunity to deepen into what you were on this soul level you were being asked to really remove from your life. Like more than anything, what I am so tapped into right now is creating spaciousness. And the story that I'm really tapped into is this Virgo energy can be really busy, can be really hustly. It's like the busybody. It's like work, work, work. Like, let me be more productive. Like, what else can I do? And in what ways do I need to even overwork and overperform and overperfect? And, you know, it can have this perfectionist tendencies to just put itself into overdrive. I mean, I'm so familiar with this energy because Virgo's so present in my chart. And I'm like, wow, I'm saying no to so many things, right? Like I'm not filling up my schedule with more things. Like I really think that this Virgo lunar eclipse, especially for me, what I've been feeling so much and so tapped into is like really decluttering my life, decluttering my schedule, like letting go of all of the things that I just used to feel like I needed to do and just add on more. And in what ways have I always been like, do more of this and need more of that? And I should be more of this and let's overperform here. Like all of that, I'm like, oh my God, it's exhausting. Like I've never felt so exhausted in my life because I'm like, I've been living my life like this for as long as I know. And I think so much of it too is sometimes we're in this chronic state of fight or flight. So how many of us out there are just struggling to even just like be still and just like reconnect with ourselves and just like focus on what's actually important, right? At the core, what Virgo is here to do is to be of such deep service and towards its purpose in the world. So like, what is actually important right now? Like, I really think that's something that we're all tapped into. And guess what? The more space that we're creating is actually creating more space for this new, vibrant version of ourselves to really step, you know, confidently and boldly and fearlessly onto this Aries solar eclipse energy that we're all stepping into. It's like, it's time for us to really dissect what's important so that we can go all in on that thing and stop just like cluttering our life with so much shit, you know?
Yeah.
I'm passionate about it because I feel it.
Yeah, you're feeling it so deeply because it's really important to evaluate, of course, for you. So like I think we talked about in our Virgo lunar eclipse episode, if this eclipse is hitting your 1st, 4th, 7th, or 10th house in astrology at 9 degrees Aries, this is a big eclipse for you because these are angular houses. They're going to hit a little bit harder and feel a lot more personal because these are really important houses. But if you're feeling this eclipse, this Aries eclipse, you want to also take a look at the cardinal signs at 9 degrees. So Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. So noticing, okay, do I have any planets at or around, let's just say 7 to 11 degrees, right, of those signs? You're going to feel this in an intense way. And then you can even look at the fire signs too, just to kind of say, okay, Sagittarius and Leo, do I have any planets there as well between Aries? Because that's going to also have some energy for you as well, maybe in a little bit more of a supportive angle than the others. But, you know, this is like, Keelie's feeling this in a way because I feel like what Virgo's asking you to do is to declutter, simplify, be with yourself, create that spaciousness, but for the Aries purpose of put you first. Who do you want to be? What do you want to do? How do you want to show up in that world? Like a kid doesn't always question, well, what does everyone else want from me? They're just like, I'm just going to go for it. And that's like very Aries energy. It's just like no worries, no cares in the world. It's like this childlike sense of wonder and like go for it. Like I think of a kid like at the playground, just like jumping off the like kind of like the high, you know, ladder, like, woo, like I'm just going to have a good time. And like, oops, that I might fall down and that might hurt, but that's how you learn. And so I think it's really beautiful that you're experiencing this Virgo energy of like all the things to be of deeper service, but then also Aries, as it's closing out this chapter, is like for you too. Don't forget to serve you, because if without you, you're not going to serve anybody else. You know, you're not going to be around if you're completely blind. I also think of those people that live in like climates where they have like maybe 24 hours of daylight for a few months. And what I feel like with all of these planets right now in Aries, and some of them moving into Pisces and vice versa, it's almost like we're shining this huge light on all these planets. We've got like Venus, Mercury, the nodes, Neptune, like all of these planets coming together at the same time. The sun's there, right? It's like you need blackout shades to go inward to be like, okay, like let me quiet down so I can actually sleep. Because if it's daylight 24/7 and we're putting such a focus on these planets, it may feel a bit overwhelming for some of us. And so it's kind of just like asking yourself, hey, what do I need right now? Because I'm not just feeling the eclipses. I'm feeling Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde. I'm feeling Neptune finalizing its little journey, not little, big journey through Pisces into Aries. Like, this is all really major stuff. And last year, you can listen to our episode on Pluto moving into Aquarius, but Pluto's at those early degrees of Aquarius as well. And so, like, big change has been on a horizon. And we're feeling all of it. Like we said, and I think in that episode, this will be the time that everything changes. And you'll look back and say, how did I ever do it before? How did I do that? And that's exactly what you just described.
Yeah. I think like from such a big picture, what I'm really feeling is, we've all we as you know, we all have all the signs. Some of them are going to feel more prominent than others, more significant than others. We're going to feel them more intensely than others. And as Nicole said, just to kind of recap too and provide just like some more color there is like, yes, first, fourth, seventh, and 10th, 100%. If you have 9 degrees of Aries, because that's where this eclipse is happening, in the first, fourth, seventh, or 10th, then yes, this is going to be a major activation in a really important area of your life. As we know, the first house is all about the body, the self, the image, the just your own individual energy and power there. Your fourth house is all about the home and the family. So when we talk about doors closing, doors opening, it's like, okay, what's changing as it relates to the self? First house, what's changing as it relates to the home and the family? Seventh house, one-to-one partnerships. That could be marital partnerships, business partnerships, could be client coach partnerships, right? Like whatever that is, it's like what's changing in your one-to-one contractual relationships. And then 10th, career, what's changing in your career? Those are really big points in our life that when something changes there, we really feel it because it's very impactful. Now, I would even go as far to say, yes, like the closer that you have, especially a personal planet. So if like your sun, your moon, your Mercury, your Venus, your Mars, like if you have any of those like personal planets or the luminaries as close to 9 degrees as possible, like those parts of you, those aspects of you are really going to feel it. And I would also say too, anywhere 5 degrees before and after, I would say also as well, like you might feel it too. So even like going from 4 degrees to 14 degrees, look within that range. And then as Nicole said, look at all of the other cardinal signs. So yes, we've got Aries, we've got Cancer, we've got Libra, we've got Capricorn. So if you have, again, I would say probably like even like from 4 to 14 degrees, any of the personal planets between those degrees and any of those signs, take a look at your chart right now because you are feeling this on some level and in some way. And these eclipses are impacting you in a big way, and it's really a great opportunity to reflect. I mean, having the awareness that the eclipse is going on, knowing that it's happening in my first house with my rising sign, it just brings so much into perspective of what I'm feeling right now. And like, I think too, being, you kind of asked like more, specifically, like, what are some of those things that I'm experiencing with this? And it's like, some of the ways that I've been showing up even in my business, I have these like different pillars of kind of how I coach and some of the tools that I use and the methodologies that I've really studied and poured into over the past years. And Venus and Mercury retrograde coming in hot too, because we know that retrogrades are all about reflection and just kind of reflecting on things. And like so much is being reconstructed under this retrograde of like, okay, like how am I branding myself out in the world? Like what, Venus is kind of like our image, even in a sense, like our visual, like the way that we're visually showing up in the world. So it's like, how am I portraying myself out in the world? Some of that's first house too. Like Mercury has me like, well, like, is this aligned and is that aligned? And what about this? And should I go in that direction? And so you're likely asking yourself a lot of questions right now. Because just today I had question after question after question after question. And instead of trying to find answers to any of those, know that all this retrograde energy is going to have you asking really big questions. And it's probably going to be centered around what can I let go of? How can I create more space? And also a lot of new ideas. And then as Nicole was saying too, we've got some Pisces energy, Neptune being in Pisces. at that anaretic degree, 29 degrees, right before it's moving into Aries, dreams are vivid, you guys, and we are likely having a lot of ideas. We're likely really tapped into just spiritual connection, like our spiritual self, spiritual guidance, and we're likely feeling a pull in some direction. So right now, as we are moving towards this Aries solar eclipse, there's a part of you that's being pulled in a direction. What is that direction right now? Like, where are you really feeling the pull to move forward towards? And where are you really feeling the call to like move away from?
Yeah, for sure. And today Neptune is making a great aspect to the sun. They're touching. They are like in a nice hug. And I feel like Neptune, as it's at that anaretic degree and moving into Aries, like it's this dreamy, intuitive Piscean space. And people are so tapped in. And then, of course, the spring equinox really is a time when we're hitting that zero. The sun is going over 0 degrees Aries. And so we're beginning again. And that is also like a really thin veil time, according to a lot of spiritual teachers, like around cardinal, changes. So solstices and equinoxes is a really powerful time for a lot of things. And we're now stacking power on top of power on top of power on top of power of when it comes to reflection, revisiting self-worth, money, relationships, communication, ideas, starting anew, planting a new seed, ending big chapters, organizing, creating space. Like, just think of all of those things. But then I feel like when we get to this Aries solar eclipse on the 29th, Neptune has us wearing these beautiful rose-colored glasses, right? And what's going to happen on the 29th and the 30th, and then moving forward, we're going to set those glasses down and we're going to be like, holy moly, it's bright. Like, our dreams, like our intuition, it's going to be on point. But we're going to be faced with like, okay, now the music is loud. We're playing. We're here. We're at the beach. We can see differently. Everything's going to become a little bit more clear as we move through April and as we move into the future. And I feel like that's what this Aries solar eclipse is doing, along with that Neptune moving into Aries. It's going to be really, really interesting to see what's revealed to us from ourselves in our own lives. How are we going to move forward in that way? And I keep seeing this really intense visual of like, it's going to be bright. Like, we're going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm squinting. Like, what does the future hold for me? Because I've been looking through these rose-colored glasses in a different way. And now I know what I need to know. And I need to move forward. And I need to adjust my eyes and like keep going. That's kind of what I'm feeling right now.
Yeah. And I think too, yes, like we're getting clear about things. Like we're asking ourselves a bunch of questions right now and we're getting really clear on just like, I mean, again, we're ending the Aries cycle. So like we're really stepping into like we've been asking ourselves this question of who am I over the past couple of years. Well, we're at this point under this Aries solar eclipse, new beginnings. You're ready to step into this. Who am I? You're not asking it really anymore. Like you're fully embracing it. You're really connected to it. Neptune and Pisces and all this other Pisces energy is really promising you that right now. That like you feel that if you're spending time going inward, really connecting to just yourself and like letting go of all the limiting beliefs or the need to do's or the should do's or the have to do's, like at the core, you feel that like you know who you're ready to be, you know who you're ready to step into, like you're really connected to that right now. And I will say too, you're getting that clarity, but you're also still asking questions around it, right? Like I'm really feeling it as in like I'm feeling I'm feeling crazy things, Nicole. like
I look back fondly to like 2021, 2022, and I'm like, I understand. I know what this first house eclipse can feel. Obviously different vibes of the eclipse, but I'm like, yeah, it's asking a lot of questions. Like someone sent you a questionnaire in the mail, like 18 censuses, and you're like, what? What is this?
Well, yeah, I just feel this energy closing out of like, who am I? It's like, okay, I'm kind of really clear on that, but at the same time, I'm not like fully acting on it, right? It's like I'm really letting it marinate. Solar eclipses, new moons times 10. We know we've talked about new moons really being this time you're planting seeds, okay? So like solar eclipse, you're planting a really big seed. But under this solar eclipse, we don't necessarily have to like take a ton of action on it. That doesn't mean you sit around and do nothing, but like if you're having like questions, like let it have some time to sprout, right? Like give it some space and some time. Like when we plant a seed, we give it some time. You're my flower girl, Nicole. So it's like you can explain this, but like when you plant a seed, like it needs time and it needs spaciousness. You're not just like sitting there watching it, like and waiting for it to grow the whole time. Like you just give it some spaciousness. And I feel like with under any other circumstances, I'm like, Aries solar eclipse, it is telling you to go, move forward, charge ahead. But with Mercury retrograde and with Venus retrograde, like, I would just say, give whatever seed that really feels like it wants to be planted some space and some time right now. We don't have to rush is really what I'm saying here is we don't have to rush into it. Like our dream is still going to be there. This path is still going to be there on the other side of this eclipse, on the other side of Mercury retrograde. And then I wanted to say this too, because it's Mercury retrograde, sometimes if you start something during Mercury retrograde, you end up having to like go back and redo it later because maybe you continue to get clarity. So it's like the thing that you're tapped into now, you're going to continue to get more and more and more and more clear and like shift and mold it while Mercury is, retrograde. And then once Mercury goes direct and then Venus goes direct, all this to say, I was just going to say that like maybe it'll even become more clear after the retrogrades go direct.
Absolutely. And it's like when you were describing that seed, what I thought of was like those videos that you sometimes see on Instagram, and they're like sped up time lapses of someone planting a seed in a cup and then all of a sudden they have a pepper plant. Let me tell you, that does not happen that quickly. Like that's what Aries energy wants you to think is going to happen. Oh, I did this, I put the water in, and then boom, I have a whole plant and I'm ready to harvest peppers. And it's like, no, actually that took probably 90 days of that time lapse, but it looked like it happened in 45 seconds. And so, as Keelie said, you put the seed in the soil and you give it the right conditions, you give it the moisture, you give it the light or the not enough light, because they need to be under the soil, most seeds, then they sprout, but they have to crack out of their shell and it's a process. And you know what you don't do when you plant a seed? You don't go back the next day and go like, are you growing? Did you grow?
Yeah.
You don't start digging it up because then sometimes it's going to be like, well, what are you doing? Like, what am I, doing? So I love that analogy of like, yeah, this is a huge seed we're planting right now. And while we're ending this big Aries-Libra eclipse axis, it's still, eclipses are like plus and minus 6 months of time. So like, this is a big time. So what you're going to notice, what you're planting this seed is going to feel really real on the Aries full moon in October. Yes. And don't rush it, don't rush it. And then of course, same thing with the Virgo lunar eclipse. You're going to start to feel that again in September on the Virgo full moon or the Pisces full moon.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I was reading too, like Mercury retrograde, it's at 0 degrees Aries, when this eclipse happens, like it has just retrograded into Aries. So like you really are going to be thinking about your path forward because that 0 degrees of Aries is like the beginning of all beginnings. So, under this eclipse, it is like if you are, and with this Venus retrograde, if you're like, I'm just changing everything about myself, like I am, because that's what Venus loves to do. And then Mercury wants to be on this completely new path. And so, yeah, we hope that I found when I was doing some research today, I found all this like really grounding because there's so much going on in my head. And then I'm like, oh, I can take a beat. Like all these questions that I'm having, like those are fine to be asking right now. Like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. So yeah. So I want to hear from Nicole too. Like I'm really curious how you feel like you've been feeling now that we've been through the Virgo lunar eclipse. It's like, and then we're stepping into this Aries solar eclipse, and you have an Aries moon. I have like, no Aries. I have Aries in my chart. We all have Aries, right? But like I have no planets in Aries. But it's just really interesting how I still even feel like, such this push into, who I'm here to be in this new chapter of life. But yeah, with your Aries moon, and like, I'm just curious what you really feel like you're tapped into. Like, what are you letting go of? Where do you feel like you're creating more space so that you can step into, whatever version of you is like being solidified?
Yeah, at the beginning, I was kind of hinting toward like I'd had this major career change from something that was like super demanding business development, deadline, into communications, which was a bit more expressive, still a bunch of deadlines, but not nearly the pressure that I was under before. And I had transitioned into that job like right in 2023, in March of 2023. And so that was a huge change for me, but it was a huge blow to my ego. Like I was like, oh my God, this job isn't as important. Like I don't have as much purpose here. And it's not a diss to communications. It was just a diss to like being new at doing something. And so through that, my day-to-day completely changed. Instead of being on call 24/7 for like whatever partners needed to talk to me, I then suddenly had a lot of flexibility in my life and my schedule. And it took a lot for me to adapt to that. And that inner emotional nature of my Aries moon was like, so we're not pushing go, go, go 1,000 times a day. Like, I don't have to operate it this way. It felt weird. And so it took time for that to unravel and become okay for me. And that also required a lot of subconscious patterns to be let go as well, which was what I was dealing with Libra in my 12th house. And so it was like unraveling this huge ball of yarn or this big onion to like happen in a new way for me. And I didn't ever think this was possible in my career because it was very all or nothing, very Aries of me to feel like it had to be all or nothing. And then I realized, oh, there's like a happy medium, and so coming up on this final Aries solar eclipse, I'm feeling really good because I feel like a lot of the seeds that were planted for me with that new transition bridge career in communications into full-time in my business were like, oh, this had to happen this way. And as you know, if you've heard our other episodes, I'm pregnant. So my day-to-day life has changed a ton, the way I'm creatively self-expressing. I also have Aries in my 5th house as well. So it's like all, the house of children and these things. So it's like, yeah. So it's like so on point, but I wasn't researching this ahead of time with a magnifying glass going, this is what's going to happen. Like now I'm looking back at this retrospectively. So yeah, I feel like this is really good. I feel the energy, but I like what you said about being able to take a beat too, because it's like I don't have to have it figured out, but I've noticed like, when like you join two pieces of wood together, like, and they just suddenly fit and you're like, oh, that's kind of what I've felt lately has happened for me, that like what I've been thinking about, the questions that maybe like Mercury has been asking me, and then like where I really want to go and what I want to do have finally met and they've joined together and I see the path so much more clearly. So I'm excited for this, but I would be lying if I didn't say I'm a little bit nervous because now we move back into an angular house eclipse axis for me with Virgo and Pisces of the 4th and the 10th house. I'm like, oh, okay, here we go again. Some big energy on the horizon. So I'm excited. I'm excited for these seeds that I've planted to germinate,
Yeah, all of that makes so much sense, Nicole. And it's so interesting to hear just some of your own reflections about like your own Aries moon and like having this personal planet and the journey that you've been through. And one of the things that I was thinking about as you were talking is when we're in this portal of like, a specific axis. So like the Aries-Libra axis that we've been in since, for a couple years now, sometimes the major turning points or like the beginnings or the endings that we're experiencing throughout that like eclipse portal on that specific eclipse axis, like sometimes they happen a lot earlier and sometimes they happen at the very end. So for some of you, maybe you've been experiencing these Aries eclipses and they've been going on since April of 2023. And now we're getting to, end of March 2025. And maybe now it's finally kind of like coming to light and like that new beginning is finally happening for you. And so for me, especially, I've got Aries in my 8th house, no planets there, but it's like, maybe the Aries eclipses that I experienced in the past couple of years, just they haven't felt so potent to me because Aries-Libra are pretty, I don't know, dormant. Can I say that? In my chart, they feel pretty dormant. But it's like, I'm just really feeling, that new beginning for me now. So one of the things Nicole talked about before, and I think it's a really great way to just reflect on some of these energies, is like, go look back at your photo album from April of 2023. We also had an Aries eclipse April of 2024. So look at those, photo albums just to kind of get a feel of like where you were at in life and maybe some things that were starting to come to light. It's a great way to just kind of start having some of those reflections.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, when you said that, like a picture of mine just popped into my mind and I realized that the actual career change didn't happen. Like I didn't there was a delay in moving because I was like on this project and I had to do it. It was probably around like the first or second week of April. Now I'm going to go back and look, but I'm like, oh, how crazy is that I just remembered, my hair looked really good in this picture and I feel like that's why I remember it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh yeah, that was so disappointing to me. And that eclipse energy, I think, like throttled me into like the next thing. And so, at that point it was like all systems go. And now I'm like, oh, now we're like really slowing down, which is really beautiful.
Yeah, I was thinking for you guys, just some of the prompts that you can really sit with at this time. And I think one of the first prompts is just very general. Moving from this lunar eclipse, knowing lunar eclipses are really kind of completions or endings, it's like really reflecting on, first of all, well, what's falling away right now? What's being let go of as a result of this Virgo lunar eclipse? So what are you being kind of called to release so that you can create more space in your life for what's being birthed right now under this Aries solar eclipse? And so from an Aries solar eclipse reflection perspective, think about, who are you becoming? Like, who are you already becoming? Who's already been there deep down, but like she or he is coming to the surface, like ready to be seen, ready to just full blown, just immerse yourself in this version of who you are becoming. So in what way are you being asked to show up more bravely, more boldly, more confidently? And thinking about some of this retrograde energy too, as well as what new beginnings are you thinking about? Again, that's that Aries 0 degree or that Mercury 0 degrees Aries. What new beginnings are you thinking about right now? And then remembering too that whatever is being revealed for you right now around this eclipse, it may still be in this reconstruction period. Like, it's versions of you are still being reconstructed. And so just like, again, giving it some space and just saying, okay, like, what are some small ways that I can still move forward, right? And still start to pave this new path of who I'm becoming, of who I'm ready to step into, while also giving it some space to breathe, to have some time to sprout.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, what flowers are you going to put on your kitchen table in a couple of months, because you've let them grow and you've tended to them and you've allowed them to bloom, and then you can enjoy them. Like, that's the process. And it's like, hey, can we just check our ego really quick here with Aries? Because sometimes it's very self-assertive, it's really bold and warrior-like, but this eclipse may be asking you to, like, okay, put the ego on the shelf. It's okay, it's protective, you can always grab it back later. It's important we have ego, but really just say, okay, I'm gonna take some action, I'm gonna take some courageous action, and then I'm gonna be patient and let it bloom.
Yeah. And I just want to acknowledge too, I'm feeling expansion personally, right? But like, I also know that right now, this time, like, we've got our up days and our down days and our high days and our low days, and like, no matter where you are at in this journey, it's trusting, because ultimately with this North Node in Pisces right now, we are just surrendering and just trusting God, source, the universe, whatever, whoever that is to you. You really are just trusting and having faith in the process, wherever you are at. And it's okay if you don't have all the answers. And it's okay to just be in the discomfort of the unknown. A lot of times the unknown feels really uncomfortable. It feels really scary. It feels confusing and chaotic and messy. And it's like, can we just lean into it? Can we just trust that there is another side to all of this? And even though you may not see it right now, can you just trust that it's all happening for your higher good?
Absolutely. And that's so beautiful. I think this is like a really divine way that Pisces and Aries are coming together, in this way. It's the ending and the beginning at the same time, but like balancing that energy, it just brings this like brand new energy with like full maturity energy. And I think it's really nice. Just a few slight eclipse reminders. This is not the time for ritual work. This is not the time to be like going crazy, doing anything major manifestations and things like that, because eclipses are, big volatile energy. We can't predict them necessarily. We're just here to work with them, and they're portals of fate. They're going to help us get on the track of the path of our purpose in the way that we need it the most. And so like Keelie said, she's feeling expansion right now. You might be feeling contraction. I know our TikTok listeners are feeling the gamut of things. Some are like, this is great. And I'm like, yes, we energize this for you. A lot of people are feeling sick right now, like actual illness, moving through physical body upgrades.
Sick, which is wild.
Oh, that's nuts. Okay, so he's going through a physical upgrade. We Seriously, love this for Ryan. Hopefully he feels better soon. But yeah, like whatever you're feeling, whether it's on this like I'm on top of the world or like, oh my gosh, I have a fever, be with the energy that you need and just know that this portal is like a very fast roller coaster and you're going to get off the ride soon, but it's all here for us and it's helping us to get to our highest and best.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us in this Aries solar eclipse episode. We really hope that you guys enjoyed it. And as a reminder, Nicole and I are now doing birth chart essentials readings. We've already had the chance to do these and we are having so much fun with them with you guys. So if you are someone who has really been excited to learn more about your birth chart, we invite you to come into this space with us and we can't wait to meet you guys.
I'm super excited for these readings too. Nothing makes me more excited than to see a new birth chart land in my inbox. So if you're just doing this for me, I appreciate it.
Yeah. So anyways, we are super excited about these. If you've been feeling the call and you want to have a reading, or if you're like, what the heck is going on in my life right now? So much is going on with these eclipses. Like this is also a space where we will dive into all of that with you as well. All the current astrology and how it's impacting you. So thank you guys so much again for tuning in with us. And if you enjoyed today's episode, share it with a friend, leave us a review, rate the podcast. It means the world to us. All of the support really does just help us continue to show up for you guys in this space and continue to create and have fun astrology talk. So thanks again. And we will talk to you guys soon and see you next week.
See you next week.